It's the Security Weekly News. I'm Doug White, and it is episode 367 of the Security Weekly News, and it is Friday, the 8th of March, 2024. We've got Star Trek, JetBrains, Facebook, Chrome, FBI, USBs, TikToks, Aaran Leyland, and more on this edition of the Security Weekly News.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
It's the show that keeps you up to date on the latest security news twice a week. Your trusted source for accurate security information and expert analysis. It's time for the Security Weekly News.
On Business Security Weekly, each week we address the challenges facing CISOs through our guest interviews, including former and active CISOs. Our news segment is focused on leadership and communications to better help security leaders translate and communicate security risks into business risks. Jason Albuquerque, Ben Carr, Tyler Robinson, and others add their expertise to the conversation. I'm Matt Alderman, and I hope you search for Business Security Weekly in your favorite podcast catcher and subscribe to download our latest content.
All right, it's the Security Weekly News, and I'm Doug White. Welcome aboard. So today we got, the U.S. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency, which is called CISA, added a critical flaw in JetBrains Team City on-premises software to the KEV yesterday. Now, I know JetBrains from PyCharm, but Team City is another big platform that they support. The vulnerability they announced has a CVSS score of 9.8, and it's an authentication bypass, which that always sounds bad in and of itself. And of course, and here's what they said. It would allow for a complete compromise of a vulnerable server by remote unauthenticated attackers. I'm like, okay, I guess that, why was that a 9.8? It really sounds more like that should have been a 10.0, but okay. I guess there was that 0.2 in there. But you know that feeling you get when you're sitting in traffic and you ate that seafood taco you bought from a guy with a little cart at the intersection that didn't seem to have any air conditioning or anything? Yeah, that feeling. You know what I'm talking about. But JetBrains did patch this on Tuesday, and they also patched another more limited flaw. But basically, according to the KEV, the attacker only needs HTTP or HTTPS access to any Team City server, and then they can bypass the authentication checks and get admin rights on the server. So, you're blocking HTTP, right? Right? You are, right? I hope so. But anyway, so per CISA, this flaw is actively being exploited in the wild, and it is being used to deliver Jasmine ransomware, and is being used to create hundreds, they said, of rogue user accounts. So whatever the script is, it creates a whole pile of rogue user accounts that they can use to get back into your server. Shadow Server Foundation said they detected exploitation attempts starting on the 4th of March. Gray Noise showed this coming from a bunch of exploitation from a dozen or so unique IP addresses shortly after the flaw was released. Federal agencies are required to patch this by the 28th of March, but you should probably patch it today. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should. And believe me, here at Security Weekly, we know a lot about that. You can do it, but you shouldn't, but we did it anyway. But you should patch it today and block HTTP to these servers, unless it's, of course, a web server that is providing HTTP, but you probably don't want to do that. Or you can join the 1.4, it said about 1.4 thousand servers had been compromised already. So, you know what to do. Facebook messages are being sent to users to distribute a Python-based info stealer script that has been named Snake. Snake? Like Snake Plissken would have been better, right? I mean, then the main screen, when you log in, the main screen could say, "Call me Snake." I know it's a dated reference, but it's on Dated Reference Security Weekly. So what do you want? Anywho, they basically send you a Facebook message. Yeah, that's hard to do. The message contains a link to download a RAR or zip file, and well, you know how that works. So, your grandmother sends you a link that's, I got one of these the other day from somebody I know, and she was like, "Check this out." I'm like, "Oh, right. Yeah, sure." probably a picture of my daughter or something, but I'm not opening it. But anyway, once you get that, if you click the link, then there's two downloaders. One is a batch script and one is a CMD script, which then downloads and executes an information stealer from a GitLab repository. Cyber Reason said there are 3 different variations of this, and the third one is an executable that's being assembled by PyInstaller. The script is designed to gather data from all your different web browsers on your machine, including Cobalt, which is a Vietnamese language browser. And I know I'm butchering it. I'm sorry, Vietnamese friends. That tone is so difficult. I don't have any. Vietnamese has 6 different tones, and this is one of the harder ones. So there's actually something else in there that I'm missing. But it would appear, based on the use of Cobalt and other Vietnamese naming conventions being used in the GitHub and the GitLab repository, along with references to Vietnamese in the source code, that it might just have something to do with Vietnam. I mean, who would have thunk it? But anyway, it's the latest in a long line of Facebook targeting mechanisms and info stealers. Meta has come under criticism recently in the United States for failing to assist victims whose accounts have been compromised. But I hate to tell you, they're not going to do anything about it. I mean, you can rant and rave and clutch your pearls at Congress, but Meta is not going to do anything about this. I mean, you click the link, so it's on you. But you listeners may want to warn your people about this. State attorney generals have been trying to budge Meta off of their "we're not doing anything about it," but good luck with it. Now, Mr. Zuckerberg may buy your pathetic state and have it turned into a parking lot for his collection of stuffed humans or something, but that's probably all that's going to happen. So don't count on the government forcing Meta to do anything about this, and warn your people about clicking anything in Facebook, let alone messaging links. Even if it appears to come from your now deceased grandmother, it may still probably be a scam. Well, VMware issued a patch on Tuesday as well for a pair of vulnerabilities they described as critical and important. The patches were for ESXi, Workstation, and Fusion. So the 2 different vulnerabilities, one is in ESXi, one is in Workstation, and Fusion, which is a different variation of that. VMware described the vulnerability as a use after free issue in the XHCI USB controller. So that's the drivers that allow you to simulate USB connections in your virtual machines. They rated this vulnerability as 9.3 for the Workstation Fusion issue, but only 8.4 for ESXi. I'll tell you why in a second. But a second flaw that was there was rated the same for all their platforms. VMware said that an attacker with local admin privilege on a virtual machine, listen to me carefully, local admin privileges on a virtual machine, not on the bare metal, but on the virtual machine. How many of your users have virtual machines that they have local admin privilege to? I mean, almost a lot of them do, I'm sure. Maybe you're better about this than a lot of people I know, but a lot of people I know, they're just like, yeah, give them local admin. What kind of harm could they do? But if they have that, these exploits can allow them to execute code posing as the VMX process running on the host. So that's on that laptop they have. So they're running something on VMware Fusion or VMware Workstation, and then So now on ESXi, this is kind of contained in the VMX sandbox, but if it's on Workstation and Fusion, it could lead to code running on the host itself, and that could be painful. So there are some workarounds listed here, like removing the USB controllers from virtual machines. Good luck with that. But your best bet is to patch, and patch often. Really, come on. The FBI Internet Crime Complaint Center, which is called IC3, I guess that's how you say it, I don't know, IC3, released a report that said that cybercrime in the United States rose by 22% last year to more than $12.5 billion with a B dollars. The IC3 also received a record number of complaints in 2023, which numbered 880,418, which was a 10% increase in complaints over 2022. Now, they don't say here how they controlled for more people in the general population, more people willing to report things, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there may be some deep dive stats in the actual report if you're concerned. But investment fraud and business email scams dominated the stats in terms of cost to victims, and losses from ransomware rose by 74% over 2022. I mean, that's a lot. The losses from investment fraud were up 38% over 2022, representing $4.57 billion with a B. And 3.94 billion with a B of this was related to crypto fraud. Business email compromises resulted in 21,000 complaints, representing 2.9 billion with a B in losses to the attackers. And tech/customer support scams and government impersonation scams were the third costliest, with 52,000 complaints and 1.3 billion with a B in losses. The victims in the 30 to 49 year age group are the most likely group to report losses from investment fraud. And the elderly, they didn't define that in this article, probably me. The elderly accounted for over half the tech support scams. Imagine that. Around 1,200 ransomware attacks were reported in the 16 just in the 16 designated critical infrastructure sector areas, with healthcare and public health having the most, followed by critical manufacturing and government facilities. So you may want to continue to issue guidance for everyone in your org about this kind of stuff. I mean, this is only a small chunk of the total, since I think very little is actually reported. I mean, does every grandmother who got taken call the FBI? Probably not. So I would guess these are really, really low numbers relative to what's really going on. And remember, you may at your company say, the elderly, who cares? But when those elderly people get scammed and your employee was logging in from his dad's house to check their email, it may well start to affect you pretty quick. So just be warned. And I would really advise you to issue some warnings to all your people and their families about this as they connect from home. Well, in the big book of irony, there's now a Chrome extension to warn you of other Chrome extensions which have been subverted, perverted, or, well, messed up, as they say in the industry. But you have to install their extension in order to get your extensions, because when their extension gets perverted, well, it gets kind of weird after you sober up. Now, this not to defame this extension, because it could be a good thing. The extension is called Under New Management, and it will alert Chrome users when an extension on your device gets a new owner. So you installed the Mr. Winky extension. I don't know what it does. They said it made your browser sparkle or something. And then Mr. Winky gets sold to Fufu Enterprises, who bought it from a guy named Chet that lives over on First Avenue by that fish place, the one that they have those branzinos. That's pretty good. Anyway, the Fufu Enterprises then sells the whole thing to Buchalrun Limited, which just happens to be owned by Dr. Liu, who is actually a cyborg created in the People's Laboratories and with spare parts after a tragic test plane incident. Wait, I think I just said the whole plot of the $6 Million Man, old 70s show, another dated reference. But anyway, this tool warns you that all this is going on. So every time the owner of your extension changes, I guess it gives you a notification. Now, I don't know if it will warn you if it's sold to Cisco, who then spins it off and sells it to Dr. Liu as well. But maybe it might. But based on this product, that they said that this may help get Google to be more open to implementing an official API to detect ownership changes. So you might want to check it out. I mean, I don't know if I would install another extension, but it's not a bad idea. Well, just when you think it's safe to go back into virtual water, Stuxnet returns. Well, it wasn't Stuxnet, but it was the idea behind Stuxnet. Nation-state-backed threat groups are once again using the old classic Taco Truck Tuesday attacks to get target victims. Now, if you don't know what that means, this is where you get some USBs and you get them printed, because they're super cheap. You get them printed with free tacos, see menu on disk. And then you take them and throw them over the fence. You hire some high school kids to go throw them over the fence down at IBM or something. Yeah, or the FBI headquarters. That kind of thing. It's kind of like poison Reese's Pieces or something. Who can resist? You see them laying on the ground, you go, Reese's free candy. Okay. I think I stole that from Family Guy. But Checkpoint, at a presentation this week at CPX Las Vegas, which I didn't get sent to again, said that USBs represented the primary infection vector for at least 3 different major threat groups in 2023. Camaro Dragon, which is representing China, Gamma Radon for Russia, and along with Raspberry Robin. Sounds like I'm talking about Eurovision or something, but they're all using this approach again. The USBs are being delivered, at least some of the reports said the USBs were being delivered in Amazon boxes with Amazon sealing tape, because that makes it legit. And they contained a sealed SanDisk USB. Sorry, sans disk. I dropped an S. Sans disk USB, and it all appeared to be brand new in the original packaging. You open it up, and wow, free USB. Hells to the yeah. One report said that an employee did open the box, went, wow, free USB, plugged it in, and then it broke into the company across the VPN of a power company. Uh-oh. So you might want to warn your employees about stray shipments arriving, like when that box of cocaine shows up on your front doorstep and you go, I didn't order any cocaine from the dark web, but hey, it's time to party. Or even if you just find a USB laying on a subway platform, you might not want to plug that thing in. You go, so poor little thing, I found it on the subway platform. I'll take it inside and feed it and then find it a home. And then it turns out to be a banana rat. Right. You've probably heard that old story. But, what is your policy on this? I mean, do you wipe all USBs before they get plugged in the first time? I hope so. I mean, all those USBs are made in China anyway, probably. And China just happens to be a hostile foreign nation state that doesn't really like us very much. So even if you ordered it, it could contain malware from the factory where that angry guy on night shift decided to get revenge. I mean, I'm paranoid about these things. I mean, I always wipe them on a Judas Goat machine before I even use them. Actually, I usually put them in, I'm not going to tell you what I do, but I wipe them because, I'm paranoid about the things, even when they're coming straight out of the package. So if you get packages you didn't order, I would advise you to be careful. Yeah. I mean, have you ever seen True Romance? Like when you get a free brick of cocaine, probably you don't want to head down and talk to Drexel Spivey about it. Lots of dated references. Well, speaking of hostile nation states in your backyard, the United States House Commerce Committee voted 50-0 to approve a bill that would force TikTok owner ByteDance to sell the company or be denied access to the U.S. market. Note, this is not a law yet. It's just a committee recommendation. It goes then to the House of Representatives, and it goes to the Senate, then the president. There's a lot of stages in there, a lot of money to get shoveled around yet. But currently called I love these things, the Protecting Americans from Foreign Adversary Controlled Applications Act. And it describes national security risks that are being posed by TikTok in particular, and establishes a framework for the executive branch, that's the presidency, to protect Americans from hostile foreign power apps. I won't even get into any political jokes here. I mean, I don't even know who's controlling all our politicians, but at least some of them are being controlled by Mr. Putin, but we won't say who. But basically, it says that if an application is controlled by a hostile foreign adversary, then the application must be divested from a foreign adversary control within 180 days. If it's not divested, then it will be blocked from all application marketplaces in the United States, which effectively says it's blocked. Now, TikTok, imagine this, TikTok said the bill would ban the app completely and got everybody on TikTok all worked up. But, I mean, it would be blocked completely if the app isn't sold. And, I mean, are they really going to sell this app? And who do they sell it to? And what do they pay for it? Is one of those things where the U.S. government gets to buy it for $1? I don't really, I haven't read the bill, but I guess it could be sold to one of the Chinese-owned shell companies that are based in the United States that buy up all the real estate and other companies. It's not clear. And it's not really clear to me how any of this stuff would actually work or how it would actually be effective, since ByteDance could just say, we sold this to another person, Dr. Liu, who lives in the United States, owns it now, and we're going to release a whole new version called CotKit. And wait 180 days, and then we'll change the name to something else. I mean, I don't think anybody remembers that they're shell companies and that they're own. I mean, there's so many places where people can own this stuff. But anyway, I mean, if the CEO of a shell company based in, what's the most patriotic place you could think of? Texas? At least that's what they say. So the shell company's based in Texas, and Texas, we own some apps here. They're American. But they could be based in China. But we're American as apple pie. Wait, did I just admit to treason on the air? Apparently that doesn't matter so much anymore either. Who knows? It's 6 a.m. The police are at my door. Fresh Adidas squeak across the bathroom floor and out my back window. I make my escape, and then I meet Aaran Leyland for some breakfast tea down at Kew Gardens. Hi, Aaron.
I didn't know whether my mic was on or not about that, and I was just going to laugh the whole way through the show. So I've been stifling laughter today. So good show so far, Doug.
That's the comedy hour.
It is. Sorry to bring it down for a bit. So hopefully you've got a big finisher.
Yeah.
Okay. Today's article is in the show notes. Hackers use number of legitimate tools in ransomware attacks. So hackers repurpose everyday tools. We should monitor their usage and detect and prevent misuse. And we should stay informed about evolving tactics, lifelong learning, which always makes me think, like, I wish I'd have become a joiner, because dovetail joints just don't change that often. And then I remember we're all in this job because we love learning, right? Right. Okay. Anyway, so I'll go through a list of legitimate tools used in ransomware attacks and explain what goes on with them. The first few I'll give in a bit more detail, then, to be honest, the rest are interesting but not really exciting. Okay, so the use of legitimate tools by hackers complicates the detection and prevention of ransomware attacks. These tools, designed for system administration, network management, and security assessments, are repurposed to conduct reconnaissance, gain persistence, escalate privileges, and exfiltrate data. Loads of badness there. First one, in it, number one, PowerShell, a powerful scripting language and command line shell. PowerShell is often used by attackers for its ability to execute scripts and commands across the networks, automate tasks, and manage configurations. Attackers leverage PowerShell scripting capabilities to execute malicious code. It allows them to run custom scripts or built-in commandlets to perform actions across the network. PowerShell enables attackers to automate repetitive tasks. Oh God, nothing in my head there, safe for air. During an attack, they can create scripts to perform reconnaissance, privilege escalation, or lateral movement. Attackers exploit PowerShell to modify system configurations. This includes altering security settings, disabling defenses, or changing permissions. Attackers use PowerShell to move laterally within the network. They can execute commands remotely, escalate privileges, and explore other systems. Oh, yes, they can. Okay, next we have, in at number two, PSEXAC overview. PSEXAC is part of the Systems Internal Suite, a collection of advanced system utilities created by Mark Rushinoff. I've got a really cool story about that, but don't have time to tell it. If you ever get me at a conference, ask me my Systems Internal story. So it enables administrators to execute processes remotely on other systems within a network. Hackers leverage PSEXAC to spread malware across network computers. PSEXAC allows attackers to execute ransomware payloads on the targeted machines. By using PSEXAC, attackers can maintain persistence within the compromised environment. Administrators invoke PSEXAC via the command line, specifying the target system and the process to run. It establishes a remote connection and executes the specified command. PSEXAC does require valid credentials, username and password, for remote access, but how hard are they to find, right? It uses Windows authentication mechanisms to authenticate against the target system. PSEXAC's legitimate use for administration makes it a double-edged sword, like all of these. The interesting part is the mitigation strategies. We all love a bit of mitigation, especially you risk people. Access control. Limit access to PSEXAC to authorized administrators. Definitely do this. Employ least privilege principles, always. And then a bit of network segmentation. Isolate critical systems from less secure segments. Restrict PSEXAC usage across network boundaries. And then, to top it all off, a bit of behavior monitoring. Monitor for unusual PSEXAC activity. And detect, that's so hard, detect unexpected connections and command executions. So just as easy as that, get out and do it. Okay, Mimicat, one of my favorites. Mimicat, I just love saying it. Mimicat is an open source application that serves as a credential dumping utility. Mimicat is designed to exfiltrate authentication credentials from memory. These credentials can include plain text passwords, hashes, PIN codes, Kerberos tickets. It exploits weaknesses in the way Windows stores user credentials. Techniques used by Mimicat include dumping memory, intercepting network traffic, performing pass the hash attacks, love a pass the hash attack. Attackers commonly employ Mimicats to escalate privileges, gain access to high-value targets within a network. Mimicats can be useful for security professionals to assess vulnerabilities. It can also be misused by malicious actors. Protect it. Okay, next one. This one's actually my favorite. Just for the, it just shows what type of person I am here. Just for the low entry ability and the easy use. Cobalt Strike. Purpose: Cobalt Strike is a commercial penetration testing tool primarily designed for security professionals. It has features, yes it does. Network assessment includes port scanners, vulnerability scanners, and password cracking tools. It has exploitation capabilities. It allows targeting specific vulnerabilities. It can do spear phishing, web application attacks, loads of cool stuff. Also, there's a command and control element. C2, as they call it in the business, enables remote control of monitoring of penetration testing activities. This is where all your beacons and Rita comes from if you're listening to Mr. Strand. Okay, reports and analysis. It generates detailed reports on security assessments. Obviously here, the problem lies that it's dual use. Security professionals, us, the good guys, right, use it to assess networks, identify vulnerabilities, and exploit weaknesses. We can utilize Cobalt Strike's robust features for legitimate security testing. I'm sure that's a cut and paste from somewhere. Cyber criminals use it to exploit Cobalt Strike's power and versatility for malicious purposes, also a cut and paste, by deploying beacons, moving laterally, escalating privileges, and maintaining communication with compromised systems. C2, what we just talked about. The cool stuff: mitigation strategies, access control, limit Cobalt Strike usage to authorized personnel, and apply release privilege principles. Also, network segmentation, isolate critical systems from less secure segments, and restrict Cobalt Strike's reach across boundaries. You can do it. And then my favorite, behavior monitoring, because it's hard to behave, right? Is it? I think so. Detect unusual Cobalt Strike activity, monitor connections, and command and control executions. Okay, last four mentioned in the article. Rclone. Rclone is a command line program to manage files on cloud storage. It has been repurposed by attackers for data exfiltration, leveraging its capabilities to efficiently transfer large volumes of data to cloud services under the control. 7-zip, a file archiver with high compression ratio. 7-zip is used by attackers to compress stolen data before exfiltration. This reduces the bandwidth. Probably not the most important part there, but it does reduce the bandwidth required for transfer and helps evade detection by minimizing the number of outbound connections. Just the fact you can't normally see inside it, and especially if it's password, it's enough to do the trick. WinRAR, similar to 7-zip. WinRAR is another compression tool used to package data before exfiltration. Advanced IP scanner. This network scanner allows for quick identification of all devices on the network. Attackers use it to map out the network, identify potential targets, and plan their attack vectors. So, in conclusion, the use of legitimate tools in ransomware attack presents a unique challenge for cybersecurity professionals. These tools are often whitelisted within organizations, making malicious activities harder to detect. It does stress the importance for robust network monitoring, least privilege, continuous education, and evolving tactics of cyber adversities. Yeah, check them out. Okay, by understanding the tools and methods used by attackers, organizations, us, can be better prepared in their defenses and be multifaceted and all cool stuff like that. Okay, back to Dr. Doug in the studio, who's old enough to clearly remember life before TCP/IP. And if the truth be told, I do also, and it was a simpler time, with more fun and joy. Peace out, party people.
Yay, IPX SPX, IPX SPX. So that was the protocol before TCP/IP. Novell. Yeah. The good old days. Hopefully you sold your Novell stock before they went bust, but you know, that kind of thing. Thank you, Aaron.
Bought Nvidia.
Oh, I wish I had. Thanks, Aaron. And finally, Voyager 1, where someone thought it was a good idea to send naked pictures of humans along with a bunch of other interesting baubles into interstellar space with a handy-dandy map guide back to Earth, which might as well have just had a giant neon sign that said, "Please come and eat us. We taste a lot like pork." Don't ask me how I know that. Just trust me. And then, of course, that proceeded to become a MacGuffin for the worst Star Trek movie of all time. And yes, I waited in the rain for 4 hours to see the stupid thing and then felt pretty let down when Shatner keeps going, Scotty, take us around for one more pass around the Enterprise because this has only been going on for like 20 minutes and we don't really have much of a script here. But anyway, Voyager 1, which was launched in the same year I was learning to write Fortran 2 code, 1977, is the first object to leave the solar system. And it's now, currently, as of this morning, 15,137,284,000 and a bunch of change, although it may have changed by 1,000 because it's moving pretty fast, but it keeps getting larger all the time. That's how far away it is from Earth. So let's just call it roughly 15.5 billion miles away from Earth. And it's really old. And the engineers from the Jet Propulsion Lab, who are managing it for NASA, said that it's been glitching for months. It's kind of like that 50-year-old Sinclair computer you got downstairs. Yeah, it's pretty old. I mean, NASA hasn't given up on it yet, but it does seem like the end may be near. I got to tell you, if I coded that thing at some point, like say about 10 billion miles out, I would have triggered it to say something like, "Con!" Yeah, that kind of thing. And it did this once before back in 2022, but they were able to reroute the telemetry data through one of the other computers. But in December, it started sending garbage back again. Just kind of like blah, 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 dark side, blah, 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 closing the pod bay doors, that kind of stuff. I mean, it hadn't been rebooted in 45 years, so it's probably not running Windows anyway, although it could be. Wouldn't shock me. It's like running Windows 3.0 or something like that. Although actually, even that's too late. So who knows? It's running music or something. I don't know what operating system it runs. But no, it does. I did look up what it's running. It's running Fortran, but they didn't say what version. But considering 1977, it may well have been Fortran 2 or Fortran 4. I don't know. And it's also running assembly. And they had a whole thing about how they're having trouble hiring for those things. Because, when you put that job ad out, they're like, "I know Rust." And you're like, no, we're talking Fortran 4. Maybe I should apply. I don't know. I could work for NASA. I could go to JPL and work. That'd be kind of cool, right? Anyway, that's the news. Thank you, Aaron. And we will see you next week on the Security Weekly News.